Welcome to the Social Podcast, where no discussion or debate is off limits.
Wow. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. Thank you for watching us from your home. Hope you're feeling warm. Our guest today is comedian and content creator Carly Thorne.
It's so lovely to have you.
The youth is in the building.
Yes, right. That is correct. Well, speaking of ageless, I'm guessing that most of us would be really happy to look as good as Jane Fonda does at 87 years old, okay? Good. And yet, surprisingly, the Hollywood icon told the New York Times that she actually hates shopping because she says it's hard to be in a fitting room and she doesn't like the way that she looks. So, is there any kind of relationship in your mind, Carly, to the idea of shopping and kind of feeling uncomfortable with the way that you look?
Well, it makes me sad that she feels this way because she's so amazing and also very beautiful. She's also conventionally attractive and gorgeous. Yeah. I will say change rooms are horrific. They've changed them now. I remember we used to have mirrors in the change room. Yeah. And now you have to walk out in front of everybody to go to the mirror, and then the salespeople talk to you because they're trying to make a commission. I get it. Get your bag.
And they always say the worst thing, which is how do you feel?
Interesting.
See, I answer the question then, you look amazing. You're like, no, I don't.
You're lying.
Don't lie to me. You know I don't look amazing in this outfit.
No. Because you also see yourself, and trying on clothes is awful, and you're just there with 13 other girls also trying on clothes, feeling terrible. The vibes are bad. So, yeah, I relate to this 100%. Trying on clothes, I online shop if I'm shopping, because I would rather be able to try it on at home with other things in my wardrobe, too.
Yeah.
And there's nobody being like, slay, mama.
I only hate it because I get so hot. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
You get hot?
Oh my God, so hot. Like trying on all the, you gotta take off your shoes sometimes.
Static.
I will try to get stuff over my outfit already existing on just so I don't have to undress.
That is so wild, because sometimes I'll go into a change room because I'm hot just so I can take off all my clothes and clean out. Not even who does it. I'm like, oh my, I can't take
That's
it.
incredible.
Especially in the winter when you go to the mall, it's a warm mall, you have your coat on, all of a sudden you start to heat up.
Yep.
I will go in a change room and just grab anything and just put it there and be like, yeah, let me try this on. Yeah. And just sit there and be like, oh my.
Are you serious? Okay,
Judge me.
No.
Judge me, that's fine.
I'm not judging you. I
funny.
love that. What struck me about this was the fact that this woman who, as you pointed out, is conventionally attractive, she's 87 years old, that it doesn't matter how much money you have, how much access to beauty treatments, to plastic surgery, whatever, you will still potentially have a terrible self-image. And that, to me, it reminds us, it's inner work that it takes to actually get to a happy place. It's not, I mean, this is somebody who's openly talked about her struggles with eating disorders, and obviously there's some body dysmorphia there. But yeah, it's like No.
She did say that she was 90% there, like 90% of the time she is fine. And at 87, I think we all hope, at that point.
I would love to be 90%.
Exactly. I think I'm 95, though.
I think it's kind of sad because we're thinking she's almost 90 years old and she's still not completely happy with herself.
Exactly.
That's the part that struck me. But I'll be honest with you, when I read this article and I saw some of her comments, I felt seen because she said something important. She said, we spend too much money, we buy too many things, and then we get rid of them, and we're trying to develop an identity by shopping. And I was like, guilty. And I remember for the longest time, I would use shopping as a way to, like, if I was having a bad day, I had to shop. If I had a good day, I shopped. If someone gave me extra money, I'd shop.
Yes.
And I realized, not until I went to therapy probably like 8-9 years ago, and I went for a different reason, but one of the things I realized, I'm like, I'm not going to the mall the way I used to. No. When I feel good, it's just enough. I don't have to go and buy myself something in order to reward myself for feeling good or having a bad day. So I felt really seen. But on the other hand, the change room's not always bad. Sometimes you go in thinking it's gonna be bad, and then you try it on in a size that you're like, oh my God, this is too big. Go both ways.
I actually laugh a lot in the change room.
Is that a good thing?
Well, I think it is. That's why I feel like I'm 95% there at 50 years old, because I can go, and somehow I have this ability lately with age to disassociate a little bit from my body. And so, like, I remember bathing suit shopping and just looking, I was blessed with the mirror, and just laughing, like looking what's back, and then like contorting my body and being like, who is this? Who am I?
Or when you
I'm
try
a little
something,
sausage, and like, I loved it.
Did you just call yourself a sausage?
Yes, in some of the suits. Not myself a sausage, but I looked like I'm able to disassociate from what I think I look like from what I believe I am.
Yeah.
If
Yes,
that makes sense.
because she's
and have a laugh about
fantastic.
it.
Like she's a climate activist. She protested against the Vietnam War before it was acceptable. Like she is awesome. She's a great person, but you know, sometimes it's hard to separate the amazing things you stand for, who you are at your core, from how you look.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let's stick with shopping, shall we? Are you the type of person who buys seashells or other trinkets to bring home from vacation? No shame for some of you, because according to the BBC News, 2 out of 3 Americans bring back souvenirs from their travels, with U.S. sales topping is there a decimal? That's 21 billion?
Yeah.
There's no decimal. $21 billion in 2022. Who is doing this? Raise your hand right now, immediately.
Everybody should have their hand up.
Yeah.
Everybody.
No?
Yeah.
I mean, they're just fine. They're coming to us for tariffs. They're doing fine. They just need to sell more trinkets.
Yeah.
Anyway, I definitely have done this in the past. When I went to Egypt, I went with a group of girlfriends, and we went to a bunch of different, locations and pyramids and all this. And we went to the Valley of the Kings, which, if you don't know, is a bunch of tombs. Basically, there's a bunch of dead bodies there. And so, for some reason, I got it in my head that I needed to get some sand.
Yeah.
So that bag that I was wearing there, I filled it up with sand and rocks. Honestly, I brought it back home, and I recently just unearthed it from the back of a closet, and I was like,
How long ago was that trip?
that was 20 years ago, maybe? So I've had this thing. First of all, it weighed me down. Like, while you're trying to travel on a camel or whatever, and there's this big
How
weight
much
down
sand
thing.
did you take?
It was a ridiculous amount. I didn't think ahead of what am I going to do?
Where am I going to put
Where
this in?
much sand is my question.
I don't know. It was
I
a
have questions
bad
about
idea.
this. Nothing screams girls trip like sand and dead bodies.
Thank you.
Do it.
Yeah. Are you
Yes.
big at getting travel souvenirs?
I love a magnet. Me and my partner have started doing a
Oh,
thing.
you're the vacation magnet person.
I am.
Fridge
You know
full.
when you look at a gift shop and you're like, who's buying the magnet?
You're the person behind
Yeah,
it.
well, because me and my partner do this thing, so we'll up and go on trips without each other, and the gag is to find a magnet that's themed but is really stupid.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So he went to Vermont to hike, and then he brought back just a magnet of a cow saying, "I can't have a meeting at 1. I'm chewing cud then."
That's perfect.
It's not even really a joke.
But then you have a fridge full of memories.
Yeah, and it looks really cool. It doesn't take up space because I don't have a lot of space in my house. You know, you can get these kitschy things and be like, what am I going to do with 7,000 shot glasses?
Yeah.
But the magnets lay flat on the fridge. And it's fun because you're not just looking for a cute magnet, you're looking for the most haunted looking Anne of Green Gables magnet at the Charlottetown airport.
So there's a theme.
It's fun. Yeah.
Okay. No, I feel like this happens to everybody. It's called vacation brain. I call it vacation brain, which is you go on vacation, you become this person you don't even recognize. You're getting your hair braided. You're collecting sand and rocks. You're taking pictures of things that later on you're like, I don't even know what that is or who that is.
Yeah.
And I feel like that happens to everybody. Luckily for me, we went on a lot of vacations when I was younger, so I got all of that souvenir, magnets,
beautiful.
keychain, Tampa, Florida t-shirts out of my system. Now when I go, I'm a little bit more frugal. I'm more like I want to have experiences. I want to eat the food. I want to spend money on excursions. But my Achilles heel, anything for the home. Anytime I hear the word market, flea market, I cannot. I'm like, so how can I get this home? Like, I'm always like, can I carry it on my lap?
I feel like those are good mementos to bring back. Like,
'Cause they mean
a
something.
textile,
You use
some
them.
linens.
Some you can put in your home, not a t-shirt.
Exactly.
No offense to the magnets.
No, that's
But,
okay.
yeah, but I feel like that's the way the
I
shopping
can't
that I do.
use my magnets like a coffee table or a bowl.
Right.
So that's fair. I mean, you can get something that you
so
actually
cute.
use.
My mother-in-law hasn't given up on the sort of cheeky gifts, especially like things like like the polyester pashmina scarves that are in all the markets. I love them, Marg, if you're watching. Also keychains. Like one time she went to Peru, incredible trip, and she brought back all these little llama keychains. And like I'm talking 20, 30 of them. And then I went to Peru.
We're getting where this $21 billion is coming from now. It's
vacation brain.
Yeah.
And then I went to Peru and she said, Jess, can you pick up more of those keychains for me?
You got rid of them already?
What? Yes! Incredible.
She's giving them to like taxi drivers.
A real giving woman, and we love her.
Yeah.
We love her.
We love her and the keychains. A new poll suggests that more than a quarter of Canadians, 27%, now see the United States as an enemy country. Okay, all right. This is happening, of course, as Donald Trump threatens to impose economically devastating tariffs on Canada and try to make us the 51st state. Never gonna happen. Thank you very much, sir. So, Carly, what do you make of this hatred we have to our neighbors to the south?
I think it makes sense in a way. I think for a long time we've been kind of seen as this like bullied younger brother. But what they don't understand is that this younger brother is hardy. And you don't want to piss Canadians off. We're really, really nice until we're really mean. Like, I obviously think that the tariffs and the threat of them is quite scary, but I like that it's brought us all together. Where now it seems like all of Canada's like, try it, see what happens.
And I like that. I love that, but do you feel like that, are you lumping all of Americans in one basket, so to speak?
No.
Because I feel like there are so many Americans, and I find this reassuring in a sense, that if you're listening to particular podcasts or reading op-eds from media sites that you trust and admire, you see that the Americans are galvanized, they're afraid, and they're very angry. Like, I find that portion of this conversation optimistic, if that makes sense.
It has to be government only, I think, right, when you're thinking about this, because individuals are not their government. We know that.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what worries about me about this. On the one hand, I think we've talked about this repeatedly on the show, how it does feel nice. I noticed on the weekend, like, it feels like everyone's being slightly nicer to each other. It was like before, for a while in Canada, it felt a little bit like people were road ragey and people were whatever. I don't know if I'm just, looking for it, but I was noticing people like letting people in. And it just feels like we're all on the same team. My friend and I were comparing it to go on your family analogy, that you know how like when you're fighting with a sibling when you're growing up and it's like you can be mad at them or whatever, but if somebody else says something bad to them, you have their back.
Hey,
So that's
good.
Right now,
That's
right?
really good.
And I love all of that, but what I don't like is this idea of like then now that is the enemy. Because to me, if you play that card forward, bad things can happen. And I think right now, tonight, for example, Donald Trump was tweeting about it again. He was trolling us again today about this Canada US game that's happening today. And what I worry about, we heard about the booing that happened at a great game recently, is that the way that this can play out potentially in sports. And some people might say that, oh, well, that's the perfect place to have sports team kind of fight this out if some of this becomes a sort of representation. But what worries me is the way that fans then can take on this.
Right.
And we saw this actually happen. It spilled over during NHL playoffs a few years ago. A Rangers fan actually got into it with a Lightnings fan for no reason at all except for the Lightnings won. We have this clip that went viral. Take a look. So this was just, they were walking, and we don't know what was said, but all of a sudden, someone was sucker punched. And I guess I just point that out. It's a really alarming clip. This was circulating around for a long time. Is that how far will people go if they're incentivized to think of someone as the enemy? And I think we just need to be wary of that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? There's a saying that says the fish stinks from the head. And this is all goes back to President Donald Trump and the way that he started off with those jokes about us being the 51st state, calling other prime minister Governor Trudeau, all of these little shots that we're taking it, we've been watching, and now I think we're just sick and tired of it. And to your point, this past weekend, I don't know if you guys watched that hockey game between Canada and the US. There's always been a rivalry between those two teams, but what happened on Saturday was palpable. The way, before the game even started, the way that the Canadians were singing the anthem, in Quebec, by the way, they were like, you could feel the energy in the building. And then like in the first 9 seconds, there were 3 fights. So I feel like
first 9 seconds?
First 9 seconds, 3 fights. Everybody was talking about. The rest were like, we've never seen anything like this. And that's why I brought up that saying. It's like, what he is doing, what Donald Trump is doing, is permeating, and it's affecting all of us. Do we hate Americans individually? Of course not. But is there this feeling like, oh, you guys think you're going to bully us? There's no way. We will buy Canadian. We will stop traveling to your country, which we are doing, and they're starting to feel that as well.
Those are good things. Those are good things,
Those
for
are
sure.
good things, but it's going to play out everywhere. And in the sports arena, it's definitely going to play out. There is that match night. It's going to be interesting to see if we still have that same energy tonight. But you know what? This is what happens when you have somebody who starts a fight with somebody who didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, you know what? I don't want a problem, but if you want a problem, no problem. And that's what Canada's saying right now.
Yeah.
So I'm here for it.
Wow. I still feel like,
I've canceled my trips. I'm not spending my money there. There's other reasons because our dollar's not doing really well, but I'm like, as long as that's going on there, I'm not supporting. I can't support you guys.
I feel like my brain is refusing to participate in the you're the enemy kind of dialogue. Like, not just because of all of the media outlets that are so upset, like I mentioned, but take someone like Steve Bannon. He used to be Trump's chief strategist in his first presidency,
Yep.
and he was the chairperson behind Breitbart News. This guy was far extreme right. He is writing and saying things now in interviews that has like really far left Democratic people scratching their head and being like, I agree with Steve Bannon, because Steve Bannon is coming out saying essentially people like Musk are evil. Like this is going to be the end of it.
Yeah.
So it is this interesting time, but I'm kind of just reassured by the fact, hear me out, that American democracy is the longest continuous democracy in the history of the world. This is going to be 4 years. But on the other hand, I'm thinking American democracy is the longest continuous democracy in the history of the world, and it's bound to end.
Yep.
And could this be the end?
it feels
so
like
I'm
it's
just
caught.
like, my brain is just caught in this. There's nothing I can do. I'm neutral.
It does feel like it's being dismantled right now.
Yeah.
Like we're living in that history. We're gonna look back and go, the United States is no longer the United States. I don't know what it's gonna look like in 4 years, but it definitely in the last month and a half has felt like a very different place.
This is why, though, we need to kind of rise above. Like, it's easy to then go into the sandbox and decide to, like, be potentially like as aggressive back. And I think we need to be careful
You want
of
us to
that.
be more Canadian about it.
I do.
I want to,
Quite frankly,
I agree. I want to be reasonable.
But I
Yeah.
love.
Plot quietly. Hey, time for a dose of patriotism. A Reddit thread has people sharing what they think Canada does better than other countries, like multiculturalism, for example, or poking fun at ourselves. So what does Canada do that you feel we excel at?
I mean, besides like maple syrup and comedy, which I feel like we hands down, can we just agree that we do both of those things better?
Yes.
I feel like we do healthcare better. And go with me.
Right.
Thank you. I got a weak clap
person's
there.
like, yes.
But I mean, I think, listen, it is not perfect. It is flawed. And yet, I've been in the States and I've talked to people. I remember one woman I met once when I was on a vacation, and she had a complicated childbirth. And she told us about the bill that she and her husband got after giving birth.
Yeah.
And luckily they had insurance to cover most of it. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I think that if you think about how many people are precariously insured or have no insurance at all in the States, and then just play that through, what types of people would not have access to that? What happens to the people who have complicated childbirths or any other number of complications? We should never, ever forget how valuable our free healthcare system is.
Agreed.
I have to go with toilets.
What?
I don't know. Every single time, hear me out. Every single time I come back from Greece, I'm like so thrilled by our toilets. I don't know if you guys have been. I think sometimes in Italy.
What happened in the toilets in
There's
Greece?
Yeah,
this
what's
thing
going
with
on?
Greece, and somehow they've managed to like invent democracy and feta, but their toilets have like this shelf on them that is above the water, and then your donation in the toilet sits on the shelf.
Why?
And then when you
never seen
flush,
that.
the donation just becomes a skid of donations. And I'm like, this is a great civilization. And we do toilets extremely well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Toilets.
I love that.
Toilets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, don't you?
I totally know what you mean.
totally know.
I went to Greece. I didn't pay enough attention to the toilets.
Yeah. You gotta be
True
looking
thing,
on the
too.
internet.
Maybe you weren't making enough donations on vacation.
I do tend to clam up on vacation.
Yes.
What-
I would say infrastructure.
Okay.
Like I have a bunch of friends who live in the UK, and I'm constantly surprised by our buildings don't keep in heat very well, but also they are incredibly hot in the summer, things like that.
Yeah.
And when I visited Massachusetts last year, I was really shaken by how much road got in my eyes. Like I would be walking on the sidewalk and then a car would drive by and a piece of road dust would get into my eye, like 7 times. And I was like, what's going on? Why is there something in my eye? And our tour guide was like, that's the road. And I was like, that's not an answer. What do you mean? That's not,
But
what?
they have lower taxes, Carly.
And I wonder if that's connected.
Yeah. I'm just going to quickly say safety. I've traveled all over the world. I've never felt unsafe in Canada ever, and I've traveled and lived in different parts of this country. I always feel safe in other places. I can tell by the time I get to the airport, do not want to be by myself in this place. Have to walk in a large group. So safety. So thank you, Canada.
Not taking those things for granted today. For many of us, the prospect of living with our parents after high school was like unheard of, but now moving out might be a pipe dream. According to Maclean's, 46% of all 20-somethings lived with a parent in 2021. That's up significantly from 30 years ago. So Carly, do you think that milestone moving out as a milestone is a thing of the past?
I don't know. I definitely think owning property is exactly. Thank you. It's a one bad. Yeah. I think owning property is definitely of the past. I will say, like, if it's in 2021, a lot of people moved back home with their parents during the pandemic.
True.
Because the cost of living is incredibly high and you weren't seeing anyone. I live by myself, but I moved back home in 2021 to live with my parents. I don't know how people still live with their parents because I wanted to kill them when I lived with them. Like, I love them. Our relationship is very good, but when you live with anybody, it drives you insane. But there is, like, I do know a couple people who still live with their parents who are my age. And while it's not for me, it has happened in different cultures, like, continuously. You have several generations living under one roof, and less like parent-child, more like roommates. Like, you know, they're contributing to the house.
Yeah. I can see the advantages of that, like, especially for childcare.
You'd want that?
And I kind of have that. My mother-in-law lives next door. Like, so there is that kind of sense of, if we have to go out at the last minute, we have a built-in babysitter system. And I think that we've lost that a little bit in this nuclear family kind of like separate homes kind of thing. But that's a different issue than I think what we're talking about here. Like, for me, I know when I was growing up, all I wanted to do was move out. As soon as I hit 16, I was like, get me the heck out of here.
Yeah.
And I think that was a generational thing because there were so many
you could be
rules.
right.
Like, I had too many rules in my house. I love my parents.
But also, we went away to school, I think. Did you go
I went away to school. I did too, but it was like there was a point where I will never move back because that's their home.
Yeah.
I don't think my son will have the same thing because I'm too nice.
Yeah.
I'm too fun.
Also, it's not affordable.
Yeah.
It's not affordable. I feel really bad. I remember we grew up in a time where I remember a person could have an hourly wage job working in a factory and think about buying a house and taking care of a family. Now I know people who are university educated, have full-time jobs as a couple, and they cannot afford as a couple to buy their first home. That to me is so frustrating. And I know that if you work really hard, if you're looking like, I've worked so hard, I've, have this education, I have this job, and I can't even buy my first home. I can't imagine that kind of frustration, because one of the things that I love was I bought my first home by myself because I was able to buy it at a time.
Okay.
It's great, but now I think I'm like, the version of me today could never do that. I would be in my parents' basement forever. But then I was listening to Malcolm Gladwell, and he gave some great advice. He said, if you're a young person, what you need to do is move away from home immediately. There'll be enough time where you'll need to be close to your parents as they get older. Find somewhere that is affordable to live and go start your life. Go for all those adventures. Do something else.
Definitely.
Don't think that you have to have this carbon copy life that your parents did. You don't have to stay in the same city. You can move to another country. You're going to be just fine. You got a good education. You're Canadian. You'll be fine. And I'm like, maybe they have to look at it differently. Not like I can't afford, but maybe like I have to chart a different course.
Definitely.
And
right?
I don't mean to be glib about this, but like there are roommates. Did anyone else have roommates?
Yes.
Like I had between 3 and 5 roommates for a very long time.
I know, but
for
the rent,
affordability.
the rent
this
for
is
a one
true.
bedroom is $3,000.
Yes.
When I moved out,
How many people are in that one bedroom?
But no, that's why you don't rent a 1 bedroom. You get a place. Like we used to rent a place with 2 to 3 bedrooms, and we'd split it 5 ways.
Here's what I
that's
will
how we
say.
afford
I
it.
agree.
And I feel like young people. There are some of them who don't want that, and so they spend 50 to 60% of their income on a 1 bedroom.
I will say, when I moved out for the second time, when I was done being in the university dorm and I moved into a house with 4 girls, we moved into Kensington Market, which is famously quite a cheap place to live. And my parents had lived there when they were living in Toronto. My mom was like, well, how much could your rent be? Is it like $600? And I was like, no.
Yeah.
So cute.
No, but I'm going to poke at that a little bit.
I had no window.
Okay.
And it was
It's like a hot area of the city now. It is right central downtown. Whereas I live in the on the border of like outside of the city, because that was all we could afford. Like I can't tell you how many people I was talking to at that time when I bought my house, and it was like all we could afford, and they were like, "Why are you moving there? Like I would never live there." And there's a real thing in this city, at least. I don't know about
Cynthia,
all cities. Okay.
I love what you're saying, because when I had friends do what you did, I was the person who was saying, like when I was around 35 or 40, being like, "Oh, must be nice to be able to buy a house." They were not going on vacation. Sometimes they moved back home with their parents. They were moving to different cities if they could, or undesirable neighborhoods. And now I have people doing that to me, and I'm kind of like, well, I was 47 when I did it, and I moved outside of the city. So, like, it is possible. Do you know what I mean?
But even outside of the city is now getting expensive.
Yes.
Because everybody's moving outside of the city.
I tell you, there are houses going for $399 in Hamilton right now. Come and join me.
There you go. Also, In Brandon, Manitoba, I want to just shout out
Oh my God, that's where my boyfriend is from.
the average house price is $265,000.
Here's what I'll say. I've been to Brandon. That makes sense.
Subscribe to the Social Podcast so you don't miss a fiery debate. Until next time, socialites.